Welcome, everybody, to another very, very special episode of Understable Minds. My name is Anthony. Sitting to my left is not Eric McCabe. This is new signee to Team Dynamic Discs, Valerie Mandujano. Hello, Valerie.
Hello.
Sitting to her left is mainstay of the show, loud shirt wearer, AJ Risley.
AJ Risley, audio sting, special guest Valerie Mandujano. That's pretty typical.
Yeah, that won't be the only time you hear that today, unfortunately. Behind the glass, behind the curtains is Danny Lindahl. There we go. Danny is going to run the show for us and do all of the behind the scenes work that makes us look as good as we possibly can. So thank you, Danny, for doing that.
Hey, anytime, man.
Really quick, Valerie.
I got you.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Please. There's a lot of work to be done. I know. Is it Valerie or is it Val or what's the preference?
I don't have one. So
Okay.
It's more whatever you feel comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as I don't want to say the wrong thing, and for everyone at home, whether they're watching or listening, people can, hey, Val, can I get an autograph? Can I take a picture? Whatever. Anything goes.
It can
For
be
sure.
both.
Okay.
It could be, yeah.
You know, it's like when you're introducing her like you just did, Valerie is great.
That would be a little awkward if somebody came up to you and said, hey, Val or Valerie, can I take a picture?
Yeah, right.
Like, hey, you just pick one. It doesn't.
It doesn't need to be both.
Okay, so that's perfect. Also, I found this out yesterday. You and Mason got into town yesterday.
Mhm.
I found out that you're not a twin.
Nope.
You obviously have a sister. Everyone, I'm sure, knows who she is. Alexis Mandujano.
Yes, sir.
She does not go by Val or Valerie.
Last I checked, no.
But you guys are not twins. I thought I would have put my life savings on it. Like, yeah, they look exactly the same. They're twins.
I think from a distance, yes, we look very similar. But I feel like once you come closer or you start seeing us a lot more, you can
Yeah.
see the details that are different.
Okay.
Like I'm a little taller, she's shorter.
Got her.
Yeah, got it.
Throw just a little bit farther and
Yeah.
make like one more putt than she does.
she makes one more putt than I will. I will say that.
Oh, yeah?
She putts lights out.
Is that like a friendly little competition of like who's the better sister this weekend?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that, I always like to get people's intro to disc golf story. Does that have anything to do with yours? Did she find the sport first or did you?
No, we both found it at the same time through our parents.
Oh, so they played. And then did they play when you were younger or did they find it when you were more of playing age?
So my dad actually found it, I would say, let's say 2000 with his friend.
Mm-hmm.
His friend would play all the time and he tried to get my dad to go out and my dad didn't want to. So my dad finally agreed to go out and he liked it. He tried to show my mom and my mom was like, no, I'm not playing. And then obviously my dad's a dad of 5 kids. So he was like, I have no time for this. So
Right.
he literally went out that one time and I think like 10 years later, he tried to go out again with my older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like it. They were into like soccer and baseball at the time.
Right.
And they were just like, no. And then put the disc away. You know, a couple years later, tried it with me and Alexis and my older sister. We said no. I was into soccer at that time.
Okay.
It took it until we moved to Texas 2 years after living there. We were all like, well, what do we do? Like, this is like, we don't know what to do here. My dad was going through the garage and found that disc that his friend gave him.
Uh-huh.
He actually gave him 4 discs, I believe. And took me, my sister, my brother, and my mom out to play. And then we found like an actual Frisbee at like a thrift store.
Okay.
And we were like, oh, look, it's a disc.
Mm-hmm.
And then so my dad was fortunate enough to throw the Frisbee. And we
Just level the playing field a little bit.
just level it. After his 4 times of going, yeah.
Right.
And then we just started from there. Really,
Okay.
every week after that, we started playing.
I like the next level thought of your dad of like, I like this thing. I don't have time to do it because I have kids. I'm going to get my kids into this thing so that now it's like, oh, look, I'm spending time with my kids doing this thing that they like.
Mm-hmm.
I just happen to really like it too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way to do it. If you are a dad out there and you've got kids, get them into whatever you're into, disc golf, regular golf, whatever it is. And now look, boom, you're being a dad and you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
Be prepared for them to beat you, though.
Right. Be
Oh,
very
yeah.
prepared. Yeah. And also like if your kid says no, then like your dad did, took you guys out, you didn't like it. So you just didn't.
Yeah.
And then you guys found it again. And what was that like when you went back? I think you said it was 4 years later.
Somewhere in that time frame. I mean, it may have even been longer than that. It may have been 6 because I was pretty young when he tried to show me. I was probably like 7, 8 years old around that time.
Okay.
And I didn't pick it up until I was like 13.
Okay. So then when you did go back out, was it you hear people where it's like they went out and they played one time and they were just hooked. Was it like that for you where you went out again and you're, oh man, I actually really like this? Or was it just like, well, I don't really know what else to do, so I'll just do that again, and it kind of grew that way?
Yeah, it was pretty opposite from most people's story where they're just like, oh, I was immediately hooked. That was more my parents and my brother. They loved the game straight out the gates. Me and Alexis, we were just kind of like, this is boring. You know, it's hot. We're here in Texas. I'm just burning all the time. And then the course they chose to play was Live Oak, my home course now.
Okay.
But it's 36 holes and it's the middle of summer and it's not very wooded.
Long.
Yeah. And when we would go out and play, they were like, we're playing all 36 holes.
All right.
And I'm throwing like 50 feet.
Right.
So I was like, this is going to be a while.
Pack a lunch.
Exactly. So no, I didn't really enjoy it. And at the time I was really getting into soccer again after taking 2 years off. So I was just like, I don't want to do this. I want to go play soccer.
Right.
And then my parents eventually started going and playing in Austin where my uncle lives. Them and my brother. Then they were just like, hey, do you want to go? We're going to spend the weekend out there. And I was just like, no, I'm going to sit back. Like, I don't want to go. I'll just stay home. And then after a while, I was like, well, I want to go. Like, they're always gone every week now. I want to go and have fun and play with them. And then I seen how much they enjoyed it. I seen how much my parents loved it, and my brother, and that it was very passionate. And they wanted us to go and play with them. But they were never like forceful about it. They were never like, you have to go and play.
Right.
They wanted us there for the company and, you know, just to build memories. And me and Alexis talked about it. We were just like, hey, let's try it again. You know, let's give it a shot. And we did. And after a while, I started seeing how flat I could throw a disc and like how much further it would go or the angles I could work with it. And that's really what got me hooked into disc golf, is how I could be competitive with myself. Like it wasn't, you know, my brother's job or my dad's job to see how good I can get. It was really myself.
Yes. Would you say that you're naturally a competitive person?
I feel like yes.
Yeah.
And my brother and my mom are very competitive. They were just very motivating growing up. So my brother was at one time my coach in soccer, because he's 10 years older than me. So he was like doing volunteer work, but also like he was my soccer coach, and he was always pushing me. And I always thought he was very mean. I was like, why is he so much mean? Like, why is he so mean to me instead of the other people on my team? Right. But obviously after growing up, I realized it wasn't that he was mean. He always wanted me to do better. He always wanted me to push myself. And there's a thing that he learned it off of my mom, but he would always tell me, and he's like, never do anything 100%. Do it 110% because you're, 10% ahead of the field now, because there's somebody out there, you know, doing 100%. Right. And so I always lived by that. And I felt like ever since I was little, growing in that mindset, that's what made me competitive.
So when you started out playing, sorry, I'm just going to come in from like elsewhere. When you started playing tournaments, I'm looking at your PDGA, you had to play in the mixed division, the intermediate or recreational. Was that mostly because there wasn't an appropriate women's division, or is that because it wasn't competitive enough and you wanted to try and whoop up on the boys, or like how did you feel about that?
I think at some tournaments it was because there wasn't a bigger field or there wasn't enough women to play, and then just sometimes in my life I felt like playing against guys, just because, you know, my brother would play, or I knew some of the local guys there, and I was like, oh, I want to see how I'm going to do against them. That was really the reasons why I bounced back and forth.
So like more competitive.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
How, you said that your mom was into it again, your brother was into it. Is it still a whole family thing, or is it just kind of you and Alexis that have run with it?
I guess it's more me, Alexis, and my dad. My brother plays occasionally. He used to play a lot before. And then he kind of got married, had some kids, and kind of slowed down. He plays occasionally. Sure. My mom, not so much. She's kind of just, she has a lot on her hands, so she doesn't play much. Okay.
Do you think that, well, kind of jumping forward a little bit for a second, having, you know, your family that played back then, and then having Alexis that's kind of stuck with it, and you guys are very similar in terms of, at least going by numbers, looking at ratings and finishes and things like that, having that person that's, I mean, literally your sister there to kind of, whether it be a person to look up to or a person to kind of motivate you, do you think that helped you, or do you think that just your natural competitiveness has what's been the driving factor to getting you to where you are today?
I feel like a little bit of both. I feel like at times we all get lazy, and we all tend to lose motivation and forget our goals sometimes. but I felt like she was always there to keep me in order, meaning, hey, I'm going to, pass you if you don't keep going.
Right.
And that was one of the things I realized a couple of years ago, because for some reason we were always neck and neck, but we could never like compete in a season, like head on. It was either this was my season, I played better, or it was her season, she played better than me. And then at one point she got injured. I think this was in 2018 or 2019. I can't really remember. And took that year off and then came back, I believe 2020, came back and started playing. And I would still play. I would still push myself. Don't get me wrong. But she picked up disc golf so much faster.
Really?
Like she put it in gear and felt like, well, Val been playing, another year longer than I have. So I'm going to do more than whatever it takes. And Mason told me at one point, she's like, he told me, she's going to catch up to you. You know that, right? And I was like, no, she can't catch up to me. Like I'm going to keep going. And he's like, all I got to say is she's hungry for it. She hasn't played in a year. Right. She wants to be the best. Like she's going to do it. And so for me, that's very inspiring. And I love that. It was nothing about like, oh, I don't like that. Like she doesn't need to be motivated. It was never that intention. It was just, okay, I really got to keep going. I can't snooze on this. Right. That's kind of the,
I forget the exact way to say it, but like once you get to the top of something, there's not that goal of getting to the top. And that goal kind of shifts to staying at the top. And for some people, that's a big mindset change of like where, if, Alexis took the year off because she was injured, now she comes back and sees that you're throwing 30 feet farther than her and you're this or you're that or whatever. And she has that to look forward to and saying like, I need to get to this point. Yeah. Where it's kind of like, okay, I've surpassed her. I need to stay in front of her, so to speak. You don't need to, obviously, but the goal is to continue improving, and there's not that target to aim for. And so it's a very, it makes perfect sense that having that would improve and help you improve on your abilities as a player for sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, she just motivates me all around, to be honest. We're just so competitive, I think, with each other, because if we slack off and we're like, okay, you know what? She can win today. That mindset's just going to carry over, and it's not only going to be her, it's going to be any FPO on tour, that I can compete with or see myself number wise getting close to, and then just feel like, it's okay. She can, she got this one. Let me just not. Right. For me, I never want to have that mindset or stick with it, because at one point I knew that mindset. I felt like that was me and Alexis, because we always competed almost in different divisions at one time. It was like I'd play advanced, she'd play intermediate women's. And then once she came to advance, I felt like, okay, well, she can win this one. Like if she was 3 strokes ahead of me, I was like, okay, she could win this one. Like I don't need to keep pushing. Like this is great for her. And then my mom was like, no, you need to stop having that mindset. Just because she's your little sister, just because, being an older sister, I always took care of her or whatnot. I never wanted anything to happen to her. So I almost like bubbled her. She was like, you need to stop having that mindset. Like, that's not the mindset of the best player in the world. Like, you need to shake that off and give her all you have. Don't let her win just because she's younger than you. Right. Yeah.
If for whatever reason it's her weekend and she beats you, then you can be happy for her. But if it's like it's the two of you in a playoff, then don't be like, oh, well, she's my sister, I'm just going to lay this putt up or whatever. Like you still need to go out there and compete to the best of your ability, and that she's going to do the same thing. And that explains why. How did you say how long it's been since you started playing professional?
I'm not exactly sure, because I know last year was my first year on tour, and then I think maybe 2 years after that, so maybe 3 years. I'd say.
So it makes perfect sense that that's how you've gone from your first time playing in a professional division to being on tour, being two of the highest rated female players in the world. That any event that you sign up for, you could win that. You have a very realistic chance to win every single event that you sign up for because of that work ethic and that competitive nature.
Yeah, 2018 was the first open tournament that you played in on the PDGA. Mason said when he was on the podcast that you helped him a lot with his like technique as he was, I don't know, struggling with different things. You were able to give him advice and stuff. Have you always been more focused on technique, or like a lot of players will just focus on getting reps in and just playing as much disc golf as possible and focusing on more execution or more of a natural feel or something like that? Have you always been focused more on technique?
No. So when I first started, I had some very awkward form. And then I believe in 2018, I want to say 2018, it may be 2017. 2018. I remember to memory. That's why. Bradley Williams. He lives in Austin, Texas, and I live in San Antonio. He messaged my sister and he's like, "Hey, I do form lessons. Like, do you guys want to do a lesson?" And so for me and Alexis, we're like, "Oh my God, this is Bradley Williams,
Right?
best in Texas."
That's a big
like,
deal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, wow, he just reached out to us.
Right.
And we were like, sure. Like, so we went to Austin. My parents drove us, and thank God for their patience. We were supposed to only do an hour lesson. We ended up doing a 4-hour lesson.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, in a field. Yeah. So he taught us all, like, everything about form.
Uh-huh.
For us, it was so overwhelming, though. It was like, wow, everything I've been doing is just wrong.
Right.
And then we carried over, and it was frustrating. Brad told us at one point, he was like, "Guys, learn from what I'm teaching you, because she's your teacher. She's not your sister anymore. She's your teacher. She's your guide. So, like, if she's doing something wrong, I want you to hold her accountable for it.
Right.
Don't be, oh, it's okay." He's like, "No, hold her accountable."
Mhm.
So we started, maybe it was 2017, sorry. I thought about Worlds. That's what I thought about. Amped up.
Okay.
So we started practicing our form every day. We'd go out to a field, and we didn't go to a course for about 3 months.
Wow.
We would go to a field 3 times a day for at least 2 to 3 hours each time.
Wow.
Just learning form.
And would you like
form.
film yourself and look at that, or?
Alexis would. If she felt like she couldn't explain what she needed to explain, she would record me and then break it down and say, like,
Cool.
"Hey, you're throwing too much hyzer now, just even on your straight shots. Like,
Yeah.
you're not hitting the flat line." And then even after that, we went to Paul's house, I think later that year. And Paul was like, "Hey, you need to pick up your speed in this." So he gave us some pointers on that. And then after that, it was just kind of focusing on form, but not only form. After we felt like we had it down, it was what lines can I hit, what angles can I hit.
Yeah.
And we noticed correcting our form helped us hit a lot of those angles a lot faster.
I think that's a big part of just field work in general, is like, you can go to a field and you can teach yourself how to do the right like thing, but then it's important to also go to the course and get the reps in there to like apply it. But that's really cool to hear. I've always heard Bradley's a great teacher, but I haven't seen like a lot of his content out there, but that's really cool to know.
Yeah. And if there's one person that you're like, I said the same thing to Mason, where it's like, if you could throw the disc and look like anyone, I mean, it's Bradley
Williams.
Right. It's Bradley, or like, what was it, like 2015, 2016 Will Schustrick.
Yeah.
And I'm not nearly built the same as either of them, but like Will's got 4 inches on me and Bradley's like a couple inches shorter, and like both of them are just so clean, so smooth, and it's just like
no extra motion.
Right.
Everything is just exactly what it needs to be and nothing more. That's really cool.
Yeah, that is what, just specifically talking about their back end form, it's like that's what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
It's just so easy and effortless, and then the disc just comes out perfectly flat and goes right where they want it to, and it's so frustrating because I know the game's not as easy as they make it look.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people assume, that Bradley taught Mason, like took him under his wing and like taught him, because his form is so similar in so many ways. But it was because mine and Alexis is doing, where we were just like, "Hey, you can fix this and it'll look better."
Wink,
at least.
wink, nudge,
Yeah,
nudge.
yeah.
If you're trying to not do that again, then maybe try this.
Exactly. Yep.
I do think it's interesting though, like Mason, when we talked with Mason, he mentioned a lot about, or we talked a bit about like practice and process-based thinking and observations. And when you said that you are competitive with yourself, it made me think a lot about that process-based thinking and practice methods. So it's again, and when we think of results and how we judge ourselves based off of results, it's when we're competitive against other people.
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of cool to see how those two different perspectives on the same kind of thing come together to really formulate and really create this detailed image that then we can impart on newer players as well, players that are coming into the sport and that come from like you also mentioned, like a soccer background, or maybe a basketball or baseball background. These team sports the results are way more in the forefront of one's mind when we compare it to golf.
Yeah.
When we compare like a team sport to an individual sport like golf is much more process based. And so I think it's it's just really interesting to see. Cause I mean, like I play a lot at back home at a really crowded course where there's a lot of times there's groups of like 4 or 5 people and they might have like 2 or 3 discs each, and they'll throw and like just start trotting down the fairway. It's as if they're running drills in soccer practice, and they kick the ball in the goal and then they just keep running to the next spot to do the next drill. And, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure why I brought that up, but, it's just the conversations that we've had just make me realize what stands out in terms of golf, and then what gets one from just playing casually with your family to being here sitting in this chair and signing big deals and playing on the pro tour. There's obviously something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing I could think of with like a team sport, you could fake being good in a team sport. It might sound wrong, but you can. Like, me playing soccer, I probably thought I was better than what I actually was because I had other people on my team to help me.
Right.
out.
There's 10 other girls out there that if you miss the ball, there's 4 of them behind you that can get it, and it doesn't matter. Nobody knows.
Or you can
Nobody
be that
remembers
facilitator kind of thing.
So but playing disc golf, all eyes are on you. Disc golf and ball golf. I think those are the 2 unique sports that, it's really individual, and people are just like watching you like, oh, are they going to make this putt? Are they going to execute this drive? So I feel like that was pretty unique. And I think that was one of the things I liked the most, but it also was pretty nerve wracking to get into like tournaments because it was like, oh, now it's just me. It's not other players on the team helping me out here. Like now it's, I have to make this putt to be able to win, So I think that was one of the things that I love the most too about disc golf.
Yeah, that's a super interesting point of kind of golf, and I guess we can call it golf variants being the only individual sports, because you think of like singles tennis, and there's just times where if AJ and I are playing tennis, he could hit a ball that no matter what I do, I'm not getting to it, and it's like I didn't do anything wrong there. I did everything right. AJ just hit the ball better than I could play the ball. Yeah, where in golf and disc golf, it's not like that. If AJ throws a shot that I can never replicate, I can still throw the best shot that I'm capable of throwing, and that can still be good enough for us to both get a 3 on the hole. Yeah, where we can still get the same score. Or I've never thought about it that deeply. That it really is like it's an individual sport, but what everyone else is doing doesn't matter, and it's just
it's literally you performing on the course. Yeah, right. Like it's like my mom would always say that like it's you against the course. Don't worry about anybody else. Don't worry about what they're doing. Never really put much thought into it. Obviously, as growing up, I was just like, okay. And then the older I got, I realized that because I was so focused on somebody else, it made me, play terrible in a round because I was like, oh, well, if they make this, then I need to make this, or I need to do that. Sure. And she's like, you need to stop thinking that way. Like it's clearly not working. Like don't think that way. Right. And realizing it now, like when I play some of the best rounds, it's not because I thought about anybody else. It was because, okay, I know I can hit this shot, or I know I'm capable of this. Yeah. It was literally me thinking about almost like the course, almost me playing just the course. Like if I would in soccer, it was okay. Well, I know I don't play so well in this hole, but I need to break it down a different way.
I mean, to bring in other examples, different sports, there's I think all sports are reactionary. Some much more than others, like basketball or tennis. It's like tennis is an individual sport, but it's determined by the other person hitting the ball. Yeah. It's like without that.
Yeah. It's not you versus the ball.
Yeah. You can't play a full game, just you.
Right. You can't just serve and win the match. Right. But then there's other individual sports like darts or bowling that are much less reactionary compared to tennis. And so golf is one of those that fits in with darts and bowling. And so you think like if you're bowling against someone, if you're thinking about how they spun the ball and got the strike on the previous set, if you're the only thing you can do with that knowledge is to learn from it. And so with golf, that's the same kind of thing. It's like you can look at the other people on your card and in your division and see, okay, how are they throwing this shot? How did they make this putt? How did they react emotionally to this roll away or even this, good skip? And yet really the only thing you can do with that information that's going to get you further down the road is to learn from it. And so but that's the individuals, the different people. The opponent in bowling is the lane and the pins. The opponent in darts is really, it's the board. Mm-hmm. And in golf, it's the course. And so it's like you can do the same things. You can look at the course and see, okay, what can I learn? How can what I do, how can I, observe that and kind of take that in as data and figure out how to become more effective. But it's much different than those team sports and those sports that are reactionary.
For sure.
So we've talked about kind of not having other people impact you negatively on the course, but I saw something that was really interesting that I wonder if it has a positive impact on you involving other people. Last year in 2021, you had 4 wins. Ironically enough, all 4 times that you won, Mason also won. So you won the MPO division. He also won the FPO division in all 4 of those events. Do you notice, or maybe does he notice, when one of you is playing well, the other is also playing well? Is that kind of just like she's in a good mood, he's in a good mood, they're both playing really well, so it just kind of feeds off of it? Or is that, do you think, just a coincidence, or how does that?
I think that's just a coincidence.
It's the vibes.
Yeah.
You think?
It's not it's not the style of course. It's not like what you guys were eating. It's just purely the vibe.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
I think
cool.
If it's our week, it's our week. If not, then it's not. Yeah.
I think 4 is a lot for a coincidence.
So the year before that, I believe we won quite a few together too. But then there was times where I won a lot more than he did.
Got him.
Yeah. So
just had to rub those in a little bit.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Let's see. I won this weekend, and then Mason did.
Did you not win that week?
Second place is still good.
Yeah. You tried. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say though, is like, depending on who you tour with or hang out with, your mood definitely does get set to that. So like at times when he gets frustrated, it gets me frustrated because I'm like, you shouldn't get frustrated over these little things.
Right.
And then some just like, what are you doing? Now I'm frustrated. And now I'm just like, I'm going to play on a separate card because now I'm frustrated because you made me frustrated.
Right.
It definitely does go like that. Or even Alexis, like we won't see eye to eye and then we'll just bump heads. And then Mason's just like, hey, you need to calm down. Hey, you need to calm down. And we're both like, don't tell us anything. Like, we're fine.
Yeah.
So I will say, yeah, definitely who you play with kind of can set your mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's funny, like you were talking about, of like seeing Mason get frustrated will get you frustrated because it's like, hey man, like stop. Don't do that. I caddied for Robert McCall one time, who used to be on the show, and he is a very good player. And it was like, it was interesting that it was the first time I had ever caddied for someone. Like, it feels like half of being a caddy or being with someone when they're playing in like a high stress situation, part of it is, helping them of, hey, maybe don't throw this shot or do this or do that or whatever. But also part of it, like you were talking about, is just like, hey, don't get frustrated. Like, you threw a good shot. It's okay. Like, you're not in the perfect spot, but if you just step to the right, you can throw around that tree now. You'll be fine. And like keeping that person's emotions in check. Is that something that you guys will do literally just on the course? Or do you think, even after the round, when you go back to your RV, of like, hey, Mason, you hit that tree on hole 13 or whatever, do you guys kind of get together and have like a debrief almost?
I'm walk probably all his rounds whenever I can, whenever I'm not playing pretty much. I'll walk all his rounds and vice versa. He'll walk all mine. Mm-hmm. I think if it's something bad where he'll hit like a tree in front of him, I won't bring it up. I'm like,
sure.
Obviously we all know what the correction is there. But if it's something where he feels like he needs to talk about, I'll talk to him about it. Or if there's like incidents where he gets salty and he's just in a bad mood, I'm just like, hey, like, you can't do that. You can't be in a bad mood just because you're playing bad. If that's the case, if you're playing well, then don't be in a happy mood. Like, you can't be that person.
Right. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you need to balance your emotions. Like, you don't show your emotions that easily to people too, because they like that. Like, people I'm gonna be honest, they like when you get frustrated because they're like, okay, cool, like he's not, like he's not doing well, and I'm like, you got to learn how to control your emotions because it's just like life. Life is always going to be, a roller coaster that goes up. Life is literally a roller coaster. It goes up and down. We're going to have bad days and we're also going to have really good days.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you have to balance both and appreciate both because we learn well on our off days or on our bad days,
Mm-hmm.
You just have to handle your emotions a lot better than you normally would.
Is that how you help yourself, of just telling yourself like, yeah, there's going to be bad days. This is one of those days. It's still 24 hours. It's just as long as the best day. I can still learn just as much as I do on a good day. Is that kind of how you help yourself get through those tough times or tough rounds?
Yeah, for sure. When I'm going through a tough round, obviously I'll get frustrated, but I try not to show it. I try not to allow it to go to my card. I don't want to have that vibe against the card and them think, oh, I did something wrong, or oh, she's just mean.
Mm-hmm.
We all work hard, so when you don't see your hard work pay off, it gets frustrating. But I just tell myself, like, this comes along with the job. It comes along with living. You're going to have bad days. Like, this is just one of those bad days. And I'll laugh about it. Like, if I throw a shot and I get unlucky, Mason's just like, oh my God, that was so unlucky. And I'm just like, it's just the day, it's the day. Today's the day I'm going to have a bad day. And he's just like, well, don't say that. You can turn around. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm waiting for it to turn around. It could turn around. I'm like, but I faced it. It's, I'm not playing well. I'm not going to get frustrated over it. I accepted that I'm playing bad.
Right. So I guess we'll flip that really quick. What do you do on the opposite side when it just seems like everything is going your way? Maybe you throw a shot and it's not what you wanted, but it hits the tree and it kicks right under the basket. Or, you get the good wind bounce and everybody's discs are getting lifted and yours gets slammed and you're 20 feet or whatever. What do you do to kind of keep your emotions from going too far the other direction, where you don't want to over celebrate the positives and you don't want to get too frustrated at the negatives? How do you keep yourself from getting almost too excited?
I think I get really quiet and I kind of just I just go with it. I almost like blink out, where I'm just like not saying much and I'm not, I'm just kind of going with it. I'm there. I'm just throwing the shot. But I also embrace that if I play good or if I'm getting lucky, I laugh about it. And I'm just like, oh shoot, that was a lucky shot. And I just laugh about it, but I also appreciate it.
Right. So it's almost the same of like, if you throw a bad shot and it gets a good kick, it's like, well, I didn't deserve that. And if you throw a good shot and get a bad kick, it's like, well, I threw a good shot. It's almost the same. That's really interesting that it's almost the same mindset of like, well, forget it happened. Doesn't matter. It's just on to the next one.
Exactly. That's kind of the mindset I have. I kind of just like move on. Even if I have a bad hole, I'm just like, okay, you know what? I just need to get past this hole and move on because there's more golf to play.
That's fascinating. I could talk about that for a very long time, but we don't have a ton of time left. We do have time for our little game show that we play. And then we're going to have AJ and Fabienne are going to switch spots, and Fabienne's going to ask you some questions. But we have 5 high difficulty questions, very intense questions for you. This is our game show that we like to call How Well Does Val or Valerie Know Val or Valerie? Are you ready to play?
I am ready.
How well does Val know Valerie?
Exactly.
Difficult questions.
These are all questions about your disc golf career.
Okay.
They will all revolve around PDGA sanctioned play. So local minis, unsanctioned events, X tiers, things like that won't count for this. This is just sanctioned events. The first question: how many total top 10 finishes do you have in your career? And then bonus question will be, do you know what your percentage of events played to finished inside the top 10 is?
Okay, I'm going.
Well, is this just professional or all across the board?
Sanctioned career.
All across. Okay.
Right. So don't take into account divisions, anything like that.
I'm going to say 15.
You have 15 top 10 finishes?
Yeah. I don't know.
You are very, very, very low.
Really?
Way low.
What is it?
86. You have 86 top 10 finishes. 91% of your career events you finished inside the top 10.
You finished
Really?
outside the top 10 less than 15 times.
Yes.
Okay.
Significant.
So I don't keep up with every tournament if I'm not like where I'm supposed to be.
Right.
I don't.
Well, and your mindset of like, you throw a shot and let it go, throw a shot, let it go.
That's pretty much my
is going to be very difficult to remember an event from, 2018. Yeah. Where.
So there's times, where Mason would tell me like, do you know where you finished this week? Cause I'll be so like, I'll be more mad at myself. So I won't say much and I'll just be like there at the RV. And he's like, do you even know where you finished? And I'm like, yeah, like 20th. And he's like, 8th. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
it's not 5th though. I want it 5th.
Right.
Sure.
I think that's why I was so off where I was, I
Right.
was pretty far off.
Okay. Do you know what your highest rated round was? I'll take rating or the event / round.
I think it's like Hot Kaio, the event was called, and it wasn't.
Mm-mm.
Oh, shoot. That was the one I was thinking of. And the rating was, I think, like a point away from 1,000.
You would have 2 rounds rated higher than that then.
Really? Huh.
Your highest rated round was last year.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think.
If I tell you the event, do you think that might help?
Probably.
It was the Ponca City Open,
Okay.
round 3,
Okay. I'm going to say like 1,003.
10:02. So
102.
basically, yeah. Do you know your career average finish? So on average, this is where you finish from all of your events. So again, not just professional, not just pro tours.
Mm.
Every event, what do you think it is? Your average finish?
I don't know.
I will give you a word of advice.
Okay.
Mason was way low on his.
Okay.
So think of your answer and then bump it up some spots.
I'll say 8th since I said
Bump it up a few more spots.
5th.
Bump it up like one more spot.
4th.
Nailed it. 4th place.
I knew myself so well.
Val or Valerie does know Val or Valerie pretty well. Okay. This is a new one to the show. We started this with Mason. So this will be it's a really interesting question. Do you know what your highest rated event average, so across an event, your highest average from all the rounds that you didn't win? What event do you think that was? So what event did you play the best at but not win?
I want to see the throw pink event, but I felt like I didn't play well there.
I don't think there is an abbreviation at the beginning of this event, and I don't know what the abbreviation stands for, but I do not think it's throw pink.
Okay.
Actually, I know it's not because one of the letters is not P.
Okay. Okay. Is it in Oklahoma?
It was in Texas.
Texas, really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
2019.
2019. Oh, is it the Victoria Open?
It might be. It was in Victoria, Texas.
So
It's
yes.
listed on PDGA as BATADGA Tour Stop 9 Riverside Park.
Yes, I believe that is Victoria
Okay.
Open. Well, one of the tournaments that are hosted there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it was in Victoria, Texas. Do you know what you averaged there?
I do not.
Oh, I
Nine-
know that tour. Bill and Ted's Disc Golf Tour.
Bill and
BATG, blip.
It's
But-
like Bill and Ted's Amazing Adventure. Or
There
something.
it is.
Yeah, but Tad could go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's how you say it. All right. Final question. This is always the hardest. This is always the last question. Across your sanctioned career, what is the total number of strokes that you have across the board?
Oh, shoot.
I will give you half credit if you want to know the number of events that you've played.
Can
But
I
that's
know the
only half
numbers
points.
of events?
You've played 95 events.
Oh, my God.
And bonus question: do you think it's more or fewer than Mason?
Right. Yeah, that'll be your extra credit.
Oh, shoot. I think I want to go really high and say something crazy, but
Mason was very, very low. Again, he does not give himself credit.
yeah, he doesn't.
Your entire career. So let's see. You signed up for the PDGA. Do you know when you signed up?
2013?
Okay.
2014, I believe, is the first year. on your thing.
2014 was
Yeah.
your first year.
That makes sense.
So yeah, if you signed up in like October or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what about like, I'm going to go 900.
900 total strokes?
No.
No.
What about like 750?
You're way low.
Really?
Total strokes. So if you finish the round at 54 and you play 3 rounds of 54, that's 162 strokes.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, let me hear the number.
18,266. That is how many times you have thrown a Frisbee during a PDGA. Well, approximately how many times you've thrown a Frisbee during PDGA sanctioned play. Now for the real kicker.
Okay.
Do you think it's more or less than Mason?
I think it's more. I think I played a lot more years than him, at least like a year or two.
You would be correct.
Yeah.
You have Mason beat. Mason is at 15,336. So, Val or Valerie, you know Val or Valerie pretty well.
Yeah, I was.
And the crowd goes wild.
It sounds like you're saying like Valor.
Valerie.
Valerie.
Interesting.
All right, AJ, if you don't mind, we're going to have you switch out for Fabian. Fabian is going to come and ask you some questions. Val?
Hello, Valerie, Val, or Valeria. I'm going to add one more.
Hello.
So you're one of the few people that represent the Latin or Hispanic community inside of the Pro Tour. And I would like the Hispanic community that is part of that follows the dynamic disc community, and the people that follow and the sport, and there are like training to get to know you better through some quick questions.
Okay.
Would you like to participate in that?
Yeah.
So, first one would be, what would be a story that you would not tell to a group of unknown people? Let's say it's your first day in a regular job out of disc golf, and you're presented to everybody. What would be that story that you would definitely not tell them, but you're forced to tell them?
Ooh.
That will, it must be somehow entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And it must be something that, you wouldn't think of telling someone that you don't know.
Dang. I have a lot of like disc golf moments. That's what I'm thinking.
That would be a good one.
Okay.
Imagine this is 20 years from now, you're going to tell a disc golf story.
I think, okay, this is like somewhat disc golf and somewhat not at the same time. My now boyfriend roasted me the year before we met. And so I always thought he was a jerk. So like Victoria Open in 18, he just won. Alexis won the women's side, and she was sponsored by Innova at the time. And then I went to ask him if he accepted vultures because he was sponsored with Millennium. And it was the same connection basically. And I asked him, I was like, hey, and he just got the award from winning, blah, blah, blah. And I went over and I asked him, I was like, hey, so are you selling disc? Like, could you accept the vulture for Innova because Alexis? I gave him this whole story. And he just turns around and looks at me and goes, no. And I was just like, what a jerk. Like, this is the most stuck up guy I've ever met. Because they just literally like sang happy birthday to him. It was the day before his birthday, and then just like wins. So everyone's just like going crazy for Mason. And I was like, wow, I literally just got roasted in front of how many people about this?
Nice. Well, it's a good story to start. I'm translating my question because I wrote it in Spanish. First time translated it in my head. So there's a lot of people that want to start engaging in more tournaments down in Mexico, either building the tournament or traveling to the US. For someone who's starting B tiers, C tiers, how much time would you say they should dedicate on training per week? And take into mind that these people have other things to do.
I would say at least putt 100 putts a day.
100 putts a day.
At least.
100 putts a day.
100 putts. I mean, you could literally break it down. 25, 4 sets. You know, you could go out there and crank 25 putts in 3 minutes if you're fast. Like, it doesn't take long. And putting saves you so much on the green. To say like a schedule, I'd say at least get, this is basically basic, do an hour of field work. Then just do 100 putts a day. That goes so far. If you're even just working on little drills and up and down shots, it saves you so many strokes. You don't always have to throw far and always hit, the 400-foot gap line. So yeah, I would say at least, go and do a round, or if you don't have time for rounds, because rounds can take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, do an hour of field work and then do 100 putts a day.
Perfect. That's the best advice I've received, I think, this year. So What's the most important tournament for you this year?
I have maybe at least a top 5, but I would say Worlds.
Okay. So imagine for some weird reason that you don't know, and I don't know, you are forced to play with only 3 discs that tournament. Which one would they be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say a putter, of course, which is the Burst Judge. I've been liking classic. For a mid, I would go the Johnny McRae Fuse in Gold Line X plastic. And then I've been liking the Sheriff a lot. I think those 3.
Those 3?
Yes, sir.
Cool. And lastly, can you give the audience, I'll make this a challenge for everybody that's listening. I know it's going to be people from Monterrey, from Mexico City, from Guadalajara, some people from Colombia, some people from Spain, some people from Argentina are going to receive this challenge from you.
Okay.
So make a challenge, 3 different challenges that they can record on video and send to us in some dynamic that we don't know yet. An example would be like make a 300 feet forehand with your driver. That's an example.
Okay.
Can you give us 3 challenges?
I would say get at least like 5 to 10 discs. Go from a distance that you are like, you can throw, let's say an example, 300, right? Go from 300 feet and try to get all 5 of those discs within 20 feet.
Okay, perfect. That's one.
That's one. And then I would say go from a spot that you like, okay, we'll go again 20 feet, but grab this time 25 putters. And let's see if you can make all of them.
25 putters from 20 feet.
Yeah. I think that's
all of them in a row.
In a row.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't miss.
If you miss one, you repeat.
You repeat,
Okay.
exactly. And then we'll go a third one. And let's see. We got to even out the game here. We did backhand putting. Let's do a forehand. I don't know. I can't think of a forehand one that would be like for everyone. Ooh. Let's see if you can throw a putter without making it wobble. Like throw a putter with full power without letting it wobble out the hand.
Putter with no wobble, full power.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's pretty tough.
They must send like a slow motion video to see if that really didn't wobble. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you could see it out the hand if it does get some wobble. So
I think those challenges are perfect, and you're going to receive some Instagram tags in the next weeks.
Perfect. I look forward to it.
Thank you. And lastly, there are some events coming down in Mexico. We are trying to come up with some events in Colombia. There are lots of events going on in Spain. We would love to have more pro players visiting, giving us some clinics. So would you like to come eventually down there and teach us some of your skills?
I will. I would actually. If there's a time where my schedule could open up, I will like to go down. If not this year or maybe even the next 2, I will eventually go down.
Probably during the off season.
Hopefully. I hope so.
Cool. Thank you, Valeria.
Perfect.
We're back. It's us again. Thank you, Fabienne, for sitting in and asking Val a couple of questions. Val or Valerie, excuse me. Val or Valerie.
Pick one. Pick one. It's the end of the episode. Pick one.
Where is it that people can follow you if they want to stay in touch with you?
You could go to my Instagram, which is Valerie_Mandujano 99.
Nice. See, look, you knew yours. Mason was like, I think it's my PDGA number.
So I practiced that because I saw you guys tag me and I was like, you know what? Maybe if they ask that,
right.
Let's keep that in mind.
That's called thinking ahead. And that's exactly why we couldn't tell Mason the answer to your questions for this super fun game show, because then what fun would it be if you already knew all of the answers?
Yeah, I had some brain farts in the interview, which could have helped, but yeah.
We need in the moment answers.
We need the good and the bad.
Right. That's exactly what we're looking for. It's like golf. It's like life. It's all a metaphor. It all comes full circle. Unfortunately, this is where our circle ends. We are out of time. AJ, thank you for sitting in with me. Val, thank you for sitting in with us. Danny, thank you for doing everything. Fabienne, thank you for sitting in. Thank you everybody at home for watching and or listening. We will catch you all next week.